Welcome to the Collide Kids podcast, hosted by Kristen Clark. This is a show for kids and families. You are going to meet new people and have fun while you listen. Let's do it!
Hey y'all, welcome to the Collide Kids podcast. I'm your host, Kristen Clark. The Collide Kids podcast is a show for kids and families where we learn together how life and faith collide. I am so happy you're here today. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you are having a great summer so far. If this is your first time listening, I just want to say welcome, and I hope you really enjoyed today and keep coming back for more. Hey, don't forget to listen to the end of every episode. That's where we have the kids only segment where kids just like you get to be on the podcast. Well, I know what you're thinking. It's the beginning of summer, but you miss school already, don't you? No, you miss school just a little bit. I mean, we like sleeping in and having less homework and a little bit more free time. But of course, we miss our friends and we miss learning new things and trying stuff out. I don't know. Well, just because it's the summer doesn't mean learning has to stop. And so this month, we're going to let fun and education collide, okay? We're going to learn some new things this summer, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's give it a shot. You know, one of my favorite things in school were specials, classes like music, art, PE, and my kids are the same way. They especially love STEM. So if you're a fan of experiments and scientific learning, I think you're really going to enjoy today's show. My guest is Josh Denhart. After serving as a children's pastor for over 10 years, Josh transitioned his vocational energies toward KidMin Science, science-inspired, Christ-focused resources. Josh is a seasoned educator with a bachelor's in chemistry education, a master's in effective instruction, and national board certification in adolescent science. As a former high school chemistry teacher, Josh melded his love for science and Christ, creating the Amazing Chemistry Show, a traveling gospel-centered stage show with fire, explosions, and lots of foam. He recently launched leadministry.com, a master course to help leaders get organized, stop the revolving door of volunteers, and prevent ministry burnout. Josh is a published author, children's magazine columnist, and occasional morning news TV personality performing fun science. I think you guys are really going to enjoy today's conversation with my friend Josh Denhart. Josh, I am so excited to have you on the Collide Kids podcast today.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's exciting.
Yeah, this is so cool. Will you share just a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Josh Denhart. I live in West Des Moines, Iowa. I am a former high school chemistry teacher turned children's pastor. And then I put those two together and I now have what I call the Ministry of Chemistry. And so I travel around the country and do a very big thing called the Amazing Chemistry Show. So if you could envision a 32-foot stage production with fire, explosions, foam, all set to music, very clear presentation of the good news of Christ in a way that not only honors the audience, but also seeks to honor the scriptures. Who doesn't want to play with fire and liquid nitrogen, right?
Well, yeah.
So it's fun. It really does work well from ages 3 to 93. Now I had to move it up to 93 because maybe a couple of years ago, there were three 83-year-old women sitting in the second row. And they came up to me afterwards and said, "We think that we had the most fun of anybody here tonight." And so it used to be, this show works great for ages 3 to 83. And then I had to move it up.
You had to move it up. That's great. What a great age range to shoot for when you're creating content. That's awesome. Well, This is going to be fun. I can't wait to talk to you about chemistry and your chemistry show. But before we do that, because this is a podcast for kids, I always like to ask my guests to share a joke. I'm going to put you on the spot. So do you have a joke for us you want to share?
I do. It's one of my favorite ones. There's a thing called a photon. Now, a photon, it's a science thing. A photon was walking into a hotel, and the hotel manager said, "May I get your bags?" And the photon said, "No, I'm traveling light." Because a photon actually is traveling light. It's like the sun emits photons. And so a photon travels through space. It's light. It's traveling light. And so he doesn't need to have anybody carrying his bags because he's traveling light.
I love it. Thank you so much for explaining it.
Yeah, we're doing this by video as well, and so I can see your face. And I was like, I don't think she got
It's
that
like,
one.
wait, is a proton or a neutron? I don't know all the Jimmy Neutron. I know a few of those.
Yes, yes.
I like
Well,
that. Okay.
There's only a couple of super nerd kids who are like me who are going to get that joke, right?
And then you explained it to the rest of us, and now we all
Well,
understand. That's good.
So here's the thing. I only tell chemistry jokes periodically.
I got that one.
Right? You got that one. Okay. Like the periodic table, right?
Yes. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, kind of funny.
That's awesome. Well, I just love this idea of the chemistry show. Tell us how you got started in chemistry. What is about chemistry that you loved?
Yeah. Well, my dad was a veterinarian, which is an animal doctor. And so growing up, he would take me out on different calls that he had. I participated in a cow birth, in pig births, and I've watched a horse be born and then stand up 30 seconds later, right?
Wow.
Had lots and lots and lots of experience. And so I kind of had a proclivity or an interest in science early on, right? And then it just came very naturally, sciences to me. I was the kid, as random as this is, that I got like old textbooks from my 7th grade teacher and just kind of read them over the summer. And I wanted to be like a cellular biologist, otherwise known as a cytologist.
Wow.
And then the next year in 8th grade, they started introducing things about the atom. And I was like, wow, I really like this. And so I took a great interest in all things small, which is the world of chemistry. And then in high school, just was really, really good at chemistry. It came very naturally, tutored a couple of people, started it, went on to start getting a degree in college, tutored some people. It was just fun. I loved it. It was just very, very fascinating. And it came easy to me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, ended up becoming a high school chemistry teacher, had a lot of fun doing that. Right. And it was almost like a high school youth group in disguise, right? In my chemistry class, we did a lot of fun stuff. And, like I kind of have the mind of an educator, right? So I've been classically trained as an educator. I truly do have, as a Christian and have a heart for people. I have the heart of a pastor, but I also kind of have the personality of an entertainer. And so I love to get up in front and do something funny, make people laugh, do a big explosion, and so being a teacher, I was able to do a lot of the fun stuff. Now, I got to say, I wasn't a huge fan of grading papers. And so, right. But I'll tell you how it all kind of started. The math and science superintendent for the school, or the director of all of math and science for a rather large school district, he called me on the phone and he said, hey, there is an elementary school who is looking for like a fall festival, and they want to have a mad science little assembly. And you're the first person I thought of. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take that as a compliment that a mad scientist, and I'm the first one we thought of. So I literally grabbed a bunch of stuff from the high school chemistry lab, put it in some cardboard boxes, got 2 8-foot tables at the elementary, and did this show. It had no music. I didn't have a lab coat. I just did the show. Some things were really, really, really cool, and some things were an absolute flop, right? And so my first time out, I was like, okay, so word to the wise, if you ever do this again, don't do that one. I thought that was going to be cool. Didn't play well for an audience, right? And then other things I had that worked really, really, really well. And so then the next year, that school wanted me to come back and do it again, along with another school. So now we're at 2. And then after those 2, I ended up talking to the math and science superintendent, and I said, hey, man, what if we opened this up to all 9 elementary schools? And he was like, hey, wow, that'd be cool. So gave me the information. I contacted all of the schools. And so now I was doing 8 or 9 a year to each of these schools, little assemblies.
Nice.
He would give me a day off from teaching. Hello. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then after the first year, I said, hey, instead of me like grabbing all of these things from the high school chemistry lab and putting them into a box, how about you allow me to create a traveling set and you just give me a budget and I'll buy the things that I need. He said, that's a great idea. So now it's really happening, right? Now I have my very own set of supplies. And so we take them around to these schools, did a lot of fun stuff. And I was bringing a message not only of STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, but also of character. I was weaving in kind of, at that time, there was a great program, maybe you've heard of it, called Character Counts. And so I was taking I think there's the 7 pillars of character or something like that, and kind of tying it in. I had this one demonstration where I would mix 2 chemicals together and stir them up. If I put them in an equal amount, stir them up, and then they would grow into a head of foam. Well, the 7 pillars were 7 different colors. And so I had 7 different of these foam things that would grow, right? Well, I would kind of pitch it to the kids, and the character thing is, this substance A is teacher. Now, what's the teacher's job? And they would tell me what the teacher's job is. Of course, they've been in school long enough, they know. And then I would say, okay, well, what's the student's job? Well, if the teacher's job is to teach, the student's job, obviously,
to learn.
To learn, exactly. And if the teacher's job is to ask questions, the student's job is to
answer them.
Absolutely. And so we went through, made a big list of these things. And then I would add one amount of teacher and an identical amount of student and say, it really does take both of us. A lot of kids think in their minds, oh, if I've got a super exciting teacher, it's all going to work out. And they don't realize that they have a part to play. And so then the very last cup, I would put in a full amount of the teacher and just a teeny bit of the kid. Some kid who was not doing their job, and we would mix that one up. And all of the others grew like 30 times their original volume, foamed over, turned hard, totally colorful. But that last one was a complete and epic fail. So that was kind of the idea of kind of a character message. Well, then at one point, somebody said, hey, I was just attending our church at this time, and they said, would you want to do some fun chemistry stuff in the corner at our big fall festival called the Great Pumpkin Party? And I thought, that'd be fun. And so I brought all of my stuff, I set it all up, and I did some chemistry stuff with, instead of character-based illustrations, I did spiritual or biblical illustrations. Mm-hmm. And once again, some of them went really well, and some of them were kind of a flop. And so then I thought in my mind, okay, if I ever do this again, I won't do those. I will do those, right? Whatever. In addition, as funny as this may sound, some of them were really cool, but they were a total pain to clean up. Because chemistry can be messy, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, not only is this messy, it's kind of toxic. I have to go through some special procedures to get rid of that. So that's how my chemistry degree came in handy. And I was like, okay, well, if I want that to foam over just like that, but I don't want it to be toxic, I won't use those things. I'll actually use these things. And so I could get the same effect with different substances. And so that was kind of helpful, right, in terms of having a degree. Well, at the end of that first chemistry show at the church, somebody came up to me and said, hey, do you ever do this at other churches? And I stopped for about half a second and I said, why, yes, I do.
Do you now?
So then I do now. And so then I did my first show at another church. And then at that church, somebody said, hey, do you do this anywhere else? I continued to do it at my home church as well. And so every time I would do a show back in the day, somebody would say, hey, would you maybe consider doing this for our church? And so just one kind of led to another and slowly led to another. I continued to do that Great Pumpkin Party at my church and got better. right?
Mm-hmm.
I started to think a little more critically. I was able to put together some more really solid biblical illustrations. I ended up getting music to go with it. I put together a free, very kind of archaic and barely functional, like it kind of functioned, website. And now, I don't know how old you are, but do you remember the old blogspot.com? Do you remember that?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so for all of the parents out there, now a blogspot was a free thing that you could put a blog on, right? Some writings or something. Well, my wife taught me actually how to create like 9 different blog pages with different titles and have them linked together so it would function like a website. So I didn't
Oh,
actually have a website. I actually had 9 different blogs that were kind of interconnected. Now,
nice.
this is where the story kind of gets funny. So you know about like Google and their search algorithm, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And if you have certain things on your page, or they're looking for things to give you ranking to see who's going to come at the top. Well, I had no idea, but because I had these 9 pages that were interconnected with each other,
Mm-hmm.
interconnectivity or having links inside of your page that led to some other place increased your searchability or like people to find you.
Mm-hmm.
So now the math on it is, now remember in school where you did 9 and then you do the exclamation mark? It's called 9 factorial. Do you know what that means?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5
Right.
times 4. That's a huge number. Well, unknowingly, that's what I achieved because of all of the interconnectivity. I had no idea. So now I was like at the top of people's searches. And so people were getting a hold of me from Europe, from Dubai. They were getting a hold of me from all around the country. And I was like, what do I do about this?
I think it's interesting too how a lot of times we just do what we're passionate about and then things just
Right.
seem to come together. And I love how that's worked out for you. Do you think it was hard to put chemistry and ministry together? Do you think that was complicated?
Not for me, it wasn't, because it was 2 things that I really, really, really liked. Um, and I loved to do demonstrations, like put liquid nitrogen in maybe make an explosion or make
Yeah.
color changes. I thought those things in foam. I thought those things were very, very, very fun. Um, but I also loved the Bible, and I love to make the Bible and Bible stories and truths about God come alive. And so it was actually it and let's give credit to the Lord and to the Holy Spirit to have influenced my heart and my thinking to make a little story to go with a Bible truth to go with this demonstration that actually makes the Bible truth come more alive than if I had just used my words alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think people love learning that way where they get to see it, they get to interact with the idea, and then it also kind of helps it all to come together. Let me ask you this. Why do you think it's so important for us to learn about chemistry? You know, we have to take it in school when we get a little bit older,
Sure.
and there's lots of things about in our STEM programs that have to do with chemistry. So why is chemistry important? We'll be right back after this. You know, raising kids in the digital age isn't easy, but Bark Technology makes products that help parents keep their kids safe online and in real life. They have an app, a phone, and a home device that lets families set parental controls on their internet-connected devices. I love the app because it helps us manage screen time and blocks websites and apps we want our kids to avoid. It also sends alerts and gives us the ability to monitor texts and social media and even track your child's location. Visit bark.us to learn more about how you can keep your kids safe online. Use the code COLLIDEKIDS to get 15% off your subscription of the Bark app.
Well, so this is what I used to do as an opener to my high school chemistry class. I would hand any kid who wanted to take on this challenge. I posed a challenge and I said, okay, 3rd day of school, it's a Friday over the weekend. If the sticker, it said, "This is not chemistry," is what the sticker said. If I said, if you can stick this on something that does not have to do with chemistry, I'll give you an A for the year on the fourth day of school. And so, of course, a lot of people took the sticker.
Yeah.
Well, what's the joke, right?
Everything is chemistry.
Everything is chemistry. Everything is made up of that's another joke, right? Why
Yeah.
shouldn't you trust atoms? Because they make up everything,
Yes.
right?
So
You
true.
can't trust an atom, it makes up everything. And so, whatever we can see and whatever we can touch, you're interacting with atoms and a
Mm-hmm.
combination of different types of atoms. And so, is it important? Well, it is. I think a healthy understanding of the world around us is good, even if you're not going to go into a STEM field. I think it's important to understand the interaction of different things, and I think that it actually can be quite intriguing, depending on who your teacher was. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. That's so true.
Yeah.
What are some things that you learn about God through chemistry?
Yeah. So a lot of people think that like science and the Bible are like in opposition to one another, right?
Mm-hmm.
That there's like a conflict between science and the Bible or something like this. And, some people are like, oh, that's so cool. So you do your show to like prove the existence of God. And I'm like, no, that isn't what I do at all. There are two big words. One's called apologetics, and the other is called evangelism. So apologetics is trying to like prove that something is, or to prove that something is right or if something is wrong. Evangelism is really telling the story of Jesus in a compelling way in hopes that people would change their lives and follow him. So my show is not about trying to answer the age-old question about origins, how the earth started, whether the earth is this way or that way. That's not what my show is at all. The show that I do is not apologetics, it's actually evangelistic, meaning that I'm seeking to share the good news of Jesus Christ and the story of God in a very, very, very visual way. What I'm trying to do is make the story of Jesus and the story of what he did and what he came to share and salvation and how he can forgive people from their sins. I want to make that so visual and so compelling, set to music. It's like the story is coming alive
Mm-hmm.
as I change water to wine. Wow. Well, I didn't really change water to wine. I just did a chemistry thing to show the resurrection of Jesus. Well, I am not, it's just a bunch of things that are extremely visual and it helps enhance the story.
Yeah. And it's so exciting, especially if you've got stuff exploding on stage or stuff, making
Yes.
big foam pillars and things like that. That just keeps the
Yes.
attention. So you're listening to what the person is saying too. I
Yes.
think it's so interesting. I hear this a lot in different people that I've talked to on my show so far. They talk about how they have this passion for God and their relationship with God, and they want to tell other people, but they do it with something that's not exactly ministry based, like you're using chemistry to
Sure.
share with other people. And so I think it's so interesting. Like, I think a lot of people assume if I'm a pastor, then I can
Yes.
tell people about God, but you could have any kind of passion you want and still feel called to share the gospel with other people.
That's exactly right. So one thing that I think about, I think you bring up a very interesting point. And so remember back in the day, there was this little kid who happened to have a couple of loaves and a couple of fish, and he gave them to Andrew. And Andrew brought those to Jesus. And with those small things, just whatever that kid had in his hands, Jesus was able to multiply that, do an extreme miracle, feed a bunch of people, and showcase his glory. Well, in the same way, I think God desires and asks us, hey, what do you got in your hand? What
Mm-hmm.
do you like? Is you like BMX bikes? Let's do this. Do
Mm-hmm.
you like Barbie dolls? There's a lady that I know who just recently has a full-on pink convertible Barbie. It says Barbie on the side, pink convertible with
Wow.
sparkles. And her hope is to reach kids who are going through cancer and drive up and show them this car right outside of the hospital window and minister to them. So
Wow.
I think that we should not limit God. If you're like,
Mhm.
hey, I just really love Legos. Well, more power to you. Maybe, just maybe, with a passion for God, you can make little stop motion videos with Legos and tell a Bible story. And so God is willing to use whatever is in our hands. And so that's why it's kind of like I have this very weird calling and I love it.
Yeah. And you get to be passionate about what you love. It's not that God
Yes.
says, okay, lay that down so that you can worship me and have a relationship with me.
Right.
He wants to use that, the thing that you already love, the thing that he created you to love and be passionate
That's right.
about. And he's going to use that for his glory. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. And so I think that kids and parents, all of us really, should look no further than what we like. Right. And
Yeah.
the funny thing too is, like, I want to have fun. That's a very big value for me. It's fun. I like fun things.
Me
And I
too.
think that God takes great joy in placing stuff inside of us that we like and that we have fun with. And, how much cooler is it if we can tell other people the story of Jesus through that fun and cool thing? Again, maybe somebody likes motocross, like motorcycles.
Hmm.
There is a way. I've seen somebody who actually does flips on stage, does all kinds of crazy stuff to gain attention, to then tell people the story of Jesus Christ.
That's so cool. It makes me think of the Bible verse that says, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, to it all to the glory of
Yeah.
God. And so even eating and drinking water and hanging out with your friends, just the day-to-day living, if you're doing it as unto the Lord,
Yes.
it's a way that you can worship him. And so that's so
Totally agree.
cool. Yeah.
Now, there's another verse that I think of as well.
Hmm.
People don't know this one as much. It's in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10, and it says this: For you are God's masterpiece,
Hmm.
created in Christ Jesus to do good works that he prepared beforehand that you should just walk in them. And so literally, I think that God has preset the DNA and the science of me and the structure of me and what I like and what I don't like. He's preset those things. And those ingredients are in me. And
Hmm.
now I get to walk forward and and be a masterpiece. He didn't make a mistake when he made me to like science. I'm doing that, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's so awesome. Well, Josh, this has been so cool to talk to you today and so encouraging for me and I know for our listeners. Before I let you go, I have to ask, because I always ask my guests to share a memory from when they were a kid. So do you have a memory you want to share with us today?
I do. And I want to tell you that this memory is intended to be an encouragement to any kid and any mom or dad.
Okay.
So the memory that I have is that when I was in like the fourth or fifth grade, on we had like I think it's like a Wednesday night or a Sunday night gathering at our church. And I was such a bad kid that the leader of that group brought an old school like tape recorder, and she set that recorder up in hopes that I was going to be my super disruptive self and that she could catch me and show other people how disruptive and how I was basically destroying the experience for other people. I had a lot of energy and I had a lot of just crazy. I was fun and I just,
Hmm.
and those kids have hope. And there's hope for the kid who's crazy and disruptive and needs somebody to record them being their crazy selves so that they can not do that any longer. That was me. But God can get a hold of some kid's heart, and their craziness can be channeled for the Lord. And now, I kind of told the beginnings of the Amazing Chemistry Show. Well, now, um, in 2018, I traveled 50,000 miles across the United States.
Wow.
I went to Puerto Rico. I went to Panama. I've been to Canada a couple times. So I literally, I travel the country and do this Amazing Chemistry Show. I mean, this is my full career.
Hmm.
I stopped being a teacher. I stopped being a pastor. I put those together and I travel all over
That's
um,
awesome.
doing science and sharing the good news of Jesus.
Yeah. So when the leader recorded you, were you disruptive or were you on your best behavior for the recording?
Absolutely best behavior. You kidding?
That's how
Not
it
only
always
am I
happens.
right, not only am I disruptive, I'm also slightly smart.
Yes. You know how to put on a good face for the recording, for sure.
Yes,
Well, this has been so good, Josh. Thank you so much for sharing your story and for all the encouragement you
absolutely.
gave us today. Where can our listeners find more about you and your show?
Yes. If they would go to theamazingchemistryshow.com, theamazingchemistryshow.com, you can find out more about the show. I also have 3 different vacation Bible schools called Science VBS. So I created 3 different science themed VBSs. They're being done all over the country every year. And it's super fun.
That's very cool. And your website is no longer the blog spot interwoven.
No,
That's good.
no.
It's a
It
real one
actually,
now.
yes, I actually had to graduate to like an actual website. And that's another whole story in and of itself. All of the ways that I had to grow
Yeah.
in order to and learn. I had to learn lots of new things. And so whenever you have a dream, usually you're like, I want to go do that. I want to go climb that mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And about halfway up the mountain, you realize I don't have what it takes to get to the top of that mountain. And so then you have to build a little camp, and then you stay there and you have to learn new things. You have to bring on some helpers or some teammates to be your friend and help you with some certain things. And you have to get stronger at that base camp before you can go and conquer the mountain.
That's right.
Gotta learn.
Good. You got to learn. You got to get through it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Well, how do you like that? The ministry of chemistry. I loved learning about Josh and his amazing chemistry show. I think that's so cool that he's using his passion for science and chemistry to share the gospel with other people and to tell the story of God. I think that's really awesome. I love when he said that science and the Bible are not in conflict. They're not against each other. They actually go hand in hand. I also love when Josh said that we should not limit God. He can use our love for Legos or making movies or science or music or a Barbie car or motocross. He wants to use the thing that you already love. He created that. He put that in you, and he wants to use that to help others and to share the story of God through your life and your passions. I think that's so amazing. Well, if you'd like to learn more about Josh and his various ministries, you can head over to his website, Kid Men Science, and you can learn about his VBS programs, his chemistry show that he does for schools and churches, and you can learn more about Josh. Also, if you are a ministry leader that's listening and you would like resources for ministry and learning to be a great leader in the church, then I highly recommend you head over to his other website, leadministry.com, and learn more about all the resources he has for people in ministry. It's good stuff. Well, now it's time for the kids only segment. This is the part of the show where you get to be on the podcast. So I would like to introduce you to my friend, Melody.
Hi, my name is Melody Shire, and I'm going to be sharing with you Matthew 5:3-6. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, and they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed those are who hunger and thirst for righteousness.
Wow, I love that passage of scripture. Thank you so much for sharing that, Melody. That was awesome. Well, hey, if you would like to be on the podcast just like Melody was and share your favorite Bible verse, or maybe you have a great joke you want to share or an encouraging quote that you like from a book or movie, you can find information about how to send that to me through my social media. I'm on Facebook at the Collide Kids Podcast or on Instagram at Collide Kids Pod. You can also head over to my website, collidekidspodcast.com, and click the link that says Kids Only only segment. Hey, would you like to support the podcast? Here's a few ways you can do that. First, be sure to subscribe to this podcast so that new episodes will automatically load each week into whatever podcast app you're using. And be sure to follow us on social media so that we know that you're listening and that you're a part of this community. And also, if you're on your podcast app, it would be so great if you left a rating and a review. That helps us know more about what you think of the show. And it also helps give the show a little boost. So that's good for other people to find out about the show so they can listen too. Or you can go by my website and click the link that says Buy Me a Coffee. And anytime you think about it, I truly always appreciate your prayer support as well. Well, I hope you guys are having an amazing summer. I hope that these podcasts are a great resource to your long car trips or trekking across the way to the pool or to grandmother's house we go. Whatever your summer plans are, I hope that the podcast can go with you and that you are encouraged and that you are reminded that God loves you and God has a plan and a purpose for your life. Well, in case no one has told you today, I'd love to be the first to remind you that God loves you so much. Thanks for listening. Well, I hope that you guys are having an amazing summer, and I hope that you are getting to spend lots of time with your family and friends and getting to sleep and read and catch up on all the TV shows and no, I don't want to say that. And if you do miss school, then I hope that these podcast episodes in the next couple weeks are a great resource for you so that you feel like you get a little bit of education in the midst of all the summer fun activities. In case no one has told you today, I would love to be the first to remind you that God loves you so very much. Thanks for listening.
You don't have to go very far looking for bad news because somehow it just finds you. So finding peace in the chaos can be really difficult, but it doesn't have to be because the River mobile app exists. The River is a Christian music radio station dedicated to playing music to help you get through life's toughest moments or life's happiest moments and everywhere in between. And all from artists who love Jesus and are real people just like you. Listening is easy. You can download it wherever you get apps from. Just search 1049 The River or listen online at riverradio.com. And know that The River is proud to partner with the Collide Kids podcast.